Hi, folks. How you doing? Yeah, thought I would talk about an ancient Egyptian god or trio of gods. We say the god Ptah, Atum, and Ra. We explain this. We can get into this. It's three in one. They are three in one, and we explain how. And it has to do with knowledge, the acquisition of knowledge. Okay, that's what religion is about. It's about the acquisition of knowledge here in this life, not the next, some of the next life. We'll explain some of that too. Oh, we'll get into that. But so we'll start with the god Ptah. Now, it is said that the god Ptah dug a tunnel through the earth. Okay, and he said that he digs this tunnel through the earth because he wanted the sun god to be able to travel all round through heaven. So he dug this tunnel. Okay? Now, when we say around, to go around, we're talking about a circle. We call it a circle of knowledge, maybe, because knowledge is equivalent to heaven. Ignorance is equivalent to hell. So anyway, the god Ptah, okay, digs this tunnel so that the sun god can travel all around. So we now see that Ptah created a sun, and his name was Atum. Okay, now we can look at Ptah as, let's say, we step away now from this idea of God, okay, which is fine, but we're going to the temple of Ptah. The temple here is a place of learning. You go to the temple to learn. The temples were schools, okay, in the ancient times. Yeah, maybe they are too today. But I'm talking about, like education. Like, we send our children to school. It's a temple. It's a place to learn. Okay? That's how it was then, and well, we can see it that way now if we wish to. Depends on how we want to see things, how we want to view the school. Okay? So now, Atum, the son of Ptah, studies in the temple of Ptah. Okay? And we can, since Ptah created this tunnel through heaven, which I refer to as a circle, because the god travels all around, the sun god Ra, travels all around the circle. Okay, so we see a circle is involved in the education here. Okay, now we also know that the circle contains 360 degrees. Okay, and because we're talking about knowledge, then we're talking about degrees of knowledge. Now, there's a concept called degrees of freedom. They use it in statistics, for sure. Degrees of freedom. But now, we're talking about the acquisition of knowledge. So these degrees of freedom tell us, hey, then these degrees are equivalent to a degree of knowledge. A degree of freedom is equivalent to a degree of knowledge. So when a student here, Atum, gets into school and starts learning, when he acquires, let's say, 90 degrees, he has acquired 90 degrees of knowledge, and knowledge is equivalent to freedom. Because when you have knowledge of a subject, you're free to go all around that subject because you have knowledge of it. You see. So now when Atum gets to the point where he acquires 90 degrees of freedom, then he has acquired 90 degrees of knowledge of whatever the subject is that he is studying. Then we go on to 180 degrees. Then we go on to the 360 degrees. When Atum reaches 360 degrees of knowledge, he becomes equivalent to the knowledge contained in the temple, to the knowledge that they are teaching in the temple. He is equivalent to that. He has covered the 360 degrees of knowledge offered by the temple. Here, the temple of Ptah. So Atum becomes equivalent to Ptah. Right? The temple of Ptah. He becomes equivalent to the temple of Ptah, or Ptah, because he has acquired all the knowledge that the temple has to teach, to offer him. And so he assimilates, Atum assimilates to the temple. He assimilates to Ptah because they are one and the same now, since Atum has acquired the knowledge. Okay? So once he has acquired all this knowledge and he becomes assimilated to the temple, or the temple assimilates to him, like the God assimilates to the Father. Okay? When this happens, Atum becomes Atum Ra. Now, in Atum we have Atum and Ptah. They assimilated. Then we go to Atum Ra, the enlightened one. Ra is light, day, sunlight, knowledge. Okay? So now, Atum assimilates to Ra, the god Ra, and becomes Atum Ra. So it's all three, because Ptah has assimilated to, Atum has assimilated to Ptah, that is the temple of Ptah, the knowledge taught in that temple. Okay, so we have Ptah, Atum, and then we have Ra, the truly enlightened one. Okay, and it's sort of like a title, saying that you have learned all the knowledge that the temple of Ptah has to offer, and so you become like the Ku, the truly enlightened, the venerable one, the respected one, the one known to have all the knowledge. Now, in today's world, this would be equivalent to like a PhD. A PhD has earned the knowledge that the curriculum, or what he's studying for, has to offer him. The PhD. You see what I mean? Because he has acquired this knowledge, he gets his degree from that school of study, etc. He's equivalent to it. He becomes like innovative. He becomes like a creator. The PhD. Other words, he can receive an idea, okay, relative to his course of study, and make it work, because he is the completer. He's the innovator. You see, when he is exposed to a situation or an idea, you see what I mean, that may first come to him as, let's say, strange or new, something, well, he can figure it out. He can get down with it and make it work. He can use it, because he has the understanding. He has the knowledge of the temple or the school that he went to. He's a PhD, right? Well, this is the same as Atum Ra. Once he acquires the knowledge of the temple of Ptah, then he becomes Ra, the enlightened one. There's no problem too great for him to solve. And so, same thing with the PhD. In his field of study, he should be able to solve all the problems that come to him, or the problems that are brought to him by someone. You see. And so this idea of the 360 degrees of freedom, etc. And you have the freedom because you have the knowledge. You have the freedom of the curriculum, the course of study that you were engaged in. You have acquired all the knowledge of it, so you're free. You're free, okay, to travel all around relative to that course of study, relative to the knowledge that you have acquired. Okay, so now we see when Ptah dug a tunnel through the earth so that the sun god could travel all around. We're talking about it's a son Atum or Atum Ra because this Atum has acquired all the knowledge. Therefore, he can circle all around the heaven. Heaven is knowledge. You see, heaven is equivalent to knowledge because you know the way. You see, so this is to say that the ancient scriptures, the God Ptah is an extremely old God. You know what I mean? If you want to call him God, we call him knowledge. You know what I mean? The temple of Ptah, knowledge. So these ancient scriptures tell us how to acquire knowledge, the techniques that were used, the symbolism that was used. Okay? We learn how to use those symbols that those old folks used thousands and thousands of years ago. And those symbols will help us, or help people find their way. You see what I mean? Through the fields of knowledge so that he can travel all around heaven by knowledge, by knowing the way. Knowledge tells us that we know the way. And you can travel all around heaven. Okay, folks? Now, we'll talk about, briefly, we'll talk about the cross. The cross contains 360 degrees of knowledge. The complete circle, the 360 degrees. Understanding the symbolism of the cross tells us that we can also understand the symbolism of the circle and the degrees of freedom, etc. You see, and knowledge of the cross. You see, and the cross has 4 sections. Okay, each one 90 degrees, 4 corners, each one 90 degrees. Okay. Now, if we impose another cross on that, we'll get 8 sections. 2 times 4 equal 8. Right? And so the 8-pointed star, okay, is akin to knowledge and its degrees. You see. Because here, instead of going from 0, no knowledge, to 90 degrees, we'll go from 0 knowledge to 45 degrees. And so we'll get 8 of those. You know what I mean? Because we have 4 90s, and so if we have the 45s, we have 8 of those, which will still give us 360 degrees of knowledge if we complete this educational system. You see what I mean? Where we go in and we acquire our freedom. Degrees of knowledge. Each degree of knowledge is a degree of freedom because with knowledge, you know the way, and therefore you are free to move about because you know the way. Okay, folks, thank you very much. And subscribe. Subscribe. Okay, and I have a lot more to talk about, and we'll get more into the gods, the so-called gods, and the knowledge, etc. You know what I mean? That these gods represent. And this involves the various strategies, techniques of learning. Because it's all about knowledge, and this is what was taught in the ancient temples. They went there for knowledge. No hocus pocus. Okay, folks, subscribe, and I hope You tune in, and I have more, hopefully, interesting things to talk about. Thank you very much, and have a good day. All right, bye.